We got new gun laws in the wake of the Sandy Hook shootings in Newtown, Connecticut. People are pushing for more gun control, but cities are bumping up against states, and Exhibit A really is Tucson. Joe Palazzolo joins us. Tucson, Joe, the site of the mass shooting that almost led to the death of Gabby Giffords,
right.
Representative Gabby Giffords.
Right.
And Tucson wants to pass some laws.
Sure.
To close the gun show loophole effectively, correct?
Right, right. Yeah, they want, it's called universal background checks, right? Mm-hmm. So they just want to make sure that any gun that's sold within their borders, the purchaser, so their background is checked.
And this is particularly, relevant for them because there's the Tucson Convention Center, and there are a fair amount of gun shows there?
Of course, yeah, right. So this would close. I mean, this would mean that thousands more people are getting their backgrounds checked every time they're trying to pass, trying to buy a weapon.
Now, what is the primary roadblock that they're bumping up against?
Right. So the roadblock is it's a state law, and there are lots of them. These things sort of swept the nation starting in the 1980s, and we know them as preemption laws. And essentially, what they say is that if a state has a preemption law, a firearms preemption law, then your localities, your counties, your cities inside there cannot regulate guns. Some of them say you can't regulate guns or ammunition at all. So any law that you say could be struck down, and some leave a little bit of wiggle room. But Arizona's is particularly tight.
It's interesting. These laws have grown. You mentioned in your story in 1979 there were 7 states that had preemption laws, and as of 2005 there were 45 states.
Right. Yeah.
Now, there have been some, these laws, it's not just a roadblock in Arizona. There have actually been a lot of victories for gun advocates in other states, for instance, Florida.
Right. So Florida is sort of the extreme example of this. They have one of these preemption laws in place, and then in 2011 they decided to tweak it, because these laws, a lot of them throughout the country, they say that, a county, a city, they can't have a gun law, but they don't really enforce or create any penalties for cities that do pass gun laws, or gun regulations. So in Florida, what they decided to do was pass a law that said, okay, not only can you not regulate guns or firearms within your borders, but if you do, then the governor can pull you from office. So it's really, like I said, yeah, sort of the.
I think you mentioned it was in Palm Beach.
Yes,
where they tried to pass some laws, but...
Right. We use the example of Palm Beach County in there because Palm Beach County is actually suing the state over this law because they're sort of questioning the power of the state to remove them from office. But yeah, so they wanted to pass a ban on magazines that held more than 10 bullets, 10 rounds.
Then the state went ahead
and
said, we're going to fire you if you try to do that. Now, of course, the critics of preemption laws, what are the main criticisms?
I mean, the critics of preemption laws are, look, when you have a large state, Florida's a perfect example, right? Obviously, the rural parts of the state and the urban parts of the state have different values, they have different needs, so it would be nice if you could tailor gun laws to a specific population. People on the other side say, look, we shouldn't have to run through a state and potentially break the law every time we cross into a different county. This patchwork is potentially dangerous for us.
Okay. Joe Palazzolo, thanks so much for joining us.